meeting today. Can't believe it's almost the end of June. Twice coming. So we want to go around and do introductions for everyone. I know most everyone knows each other. However, it's often new people, and it's always a good reminder. So I guess I will start off, and then we'll go around the room here, and then we'll do everyone online. So I'm Barb Stewart. I'm the current chair of the Kettle Watershed Advisory Council, and part of the Habitat Stewards, and a member at large on Watershed Council, and based on Rock Creek.
Christina Anderson, RDKB Watershed Planner, and trying out.
Lisa Siemens, I'm the range officer with the Ministry of Forest based out of Grand Forks.
Can people hear that? We have noise from this fan. Can you hear Lisa?
I'm just watching for the chat. Or Lindsay's head nod.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we got a thumbs up.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
okay, go ahead.
Ray Hanson, Boundary Forest Watershed Stewardship Society.
Frank Van Oyen for the Grand Forks Stock Breeders Association.
CL Sander, Trails to the Boundary Trail Coordinator, Recreation Rep.
Linda Karen, consulting geologist and mining rep for the watershed.
Kathy O'Malley, and I'm the small water user representative.
Brianna Birch, and I am the program coordinator for the Christie Lake Stewardship Society, and this is our summer assistant.
I'm Claudia Hill. I'm my second day as the summer student for the Christie Lake Stewardship Society. So lots of new stuff today.
One run agriculture, Grand Forks.
Grace McGregor, Regional District, Kootenai Boundary Area C Director, Christina Lake.
And we'll hit Natasha, she walks in.
Hi, Natasha Newman, hydrologist with Ministry of Forests based in Nelson.
And online, so I will move your picture up to the online. All right, so I'm gonna let the folks online unmute yourselves and go through. I guess you need to know who's doing it.
So why don't we go with Lindsay first?
Hey, okay, Lindsay Hainstock, working for the BC Ministry of Agriculture and Food as a regional agrologist for the South Okanagan-Similkameen boundary area, as well as the provincial grape specialist. Oh, sorry, I'm losing my voice too.
Do we need the fan on?
I am not in charge of that.
You know, right? You know how to turn that
No,
on.
I don't have.
Okay. All right, Gord, do you want to do an introduction?
Hey, yeah, Gord Roland, Big White Ski Resort. I'm the operations manager for the utilities up here.
Thank you. And Julia?
Hi, Julia Padialek. I'm a land and resource specialist with the Ministry of Forests in Castlegar.
So for anyone that didn't hear that, Julie, well, okay, I can't pronounce it. Talia with Ministry of Forests. It's really quiet in this room, the sound coming through, and we're working on to improve the sound. All right, so we have Maria doing notes. Debbie. Debbie. Maybe Debbie stepped away, so that then leaves Taylor.
Hi, Taylor Fair-Smith, Enter 4.
Perfect, thanks Taylor. All right, so then Debbie, is that going to be Ontario? No.
No, she had a meeting this morning.
Pardon?
Debbie had a meeting this morning.
Oh,
the other
that was
day.
different Debbie.
I'm just going to keep working on the speaker.
Okay. So approve. I missed you with that. Is there anybody that we've missed? Okay. Approval of the agenda. So the agenda was circulated several weeks ago. Thank you for getting that out early. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll approve it.
Hey, Ray, is that a motion? And we want to, is there any additions to the agenda or discussion on it? Yes, Christina.
So if I have time, I'd love the opportunity just to talk about the changing of the drought levels in the province. But I've got 2 slides tied to that But if not, I can send out a sort of bit of a write-up to the group, just a one-pager, just sort of explain it's been a lot of changes.
And can I add just a short conversation somewhere about where we have these meetings and how difficult it seems to be for everybody?
Where we have them?
Yes.
Okay.
Was there a slot for new business in the agenda?
There can be, what's the suggestion on the new business?
Well, I wanted to have a discussion about distributing beavers in the province.
Okay.
Important. It's very important.
Cheap way to build dams.
Yeah, we've seen a whole presentation on that.
Any other items that need to be added to the agenda? Anyone from online? Anything pressing?
So I'm gonna push the people from online to come up with an idea because I'm checking your speakers.
So, yeah, we need you to say something.
We gotta come up with an idea of how should we change the agenda?
Or just say hi.
We're batting 1,000 in the negative today.
Yay.
Let there be silence.
Well, we haven't heard anyone say anything, so I don't know if that means.
I can say hi.
Okay. Can you keep talking?
Yeah, just adjust a
Yeah,
little bit
tell us
more.
a joke.
Who is
Can you
it?
hear me? I don't have
Julia.
jokes.
No jokes. Did you ever have jokes in the past?
We just want a conversation. What's the weather like where you are?
Kind of sunny. Looking better than it was.
I think that sound is better. Yeah, we're starting to hear that. So thank you. for
No
talking.
problem.
You're our sound check.
Thanks, Julia.
You guys are muted now in the boardroom. If
Here, so.
I could easily manage. What about now?
So can you talk, Maria, and let us know your sound level? Let us know if you can hear us.
We'll just count. Tell her to count.
Yes, I can hear you now, but a few moments ago, you were all muted.
Thank you very much. Our sound system has been fixed on this end.
We can hear everyone online very well now, so thank you very much for your patience with us. All right, anything else on the agenda for anyone? If not, then I guess is anyone opposed to the agenda? No? Okay, this will be our agenda for the day, so we have 3 items added. That's awesome. All right, minutes from the last meeting, which was February 25th, those were circulated out in advance. Everyone should have had a chance to review those. Is there any comments, errors, anything anyone wants to bring up related to those minutes?
I'm not a sander.
Oh, I apologize, and
It's okay.
I usually do an extra check on that.
You got me in one place, but not in the other.
Oh, okay, well, let's hear it say, the correct,
It happens all the time.
I know, and I apologize.
That's all right.
That's why I want.
Don't worry, don't worry.
I'm an MC and I usually get MAC. So I'm with you.
I'm checking yours too now.
I just go along and say, what the hell?
But thank you for that. I will get that.
Anything else that anyone noticed in the minutes? Hearing none. Does someone who attended the meeting want to pass a motion or propose a motion?
Sander.
CL Sander, no, Ned, any seconders? Thank you. And we will, anyone opposed? No.
Hi, it's Maria. Can you announce the mover and the seconder? Because I can't see who raises their hands.
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
CL Sander. And only
Doesn't
doesn't
Regional district doesn't record who they are. It just says moved and seconded.
Correct.
So, well, we might as well, it's just easier for minute taking too. So if the rest of you don't know that, regional district does not record motion and seconder by name.
Then let's not do it.
They just motion and second.
And then that's it.
Yeah.
MSC, you have to put after it as MSC.
Motion and second, carried.
Yeah, carried. Okay. Cool, we'll do that. Then we don't actually have to record that.
Well, it's just,
Yeah.
it's easier.
Okay.
Can we have the fan turned off?
It is off.
Oh, it is off.
Whoops.
So it doesn't cycle back on?
Good point.
Well, no, because unfortunately it's the air conditioner, so.
Okay. All right. Action items from the February 25th meeting, Christina. No exciting action items.
On to the next one.
We're just moving. Moving updates. So first off, so we have the 3 different working groups. So agriculture and water. Grant is not on. He's the lead. Is Lindsay involved in that? Is there anyone to provide an update on that? Or Lisa, I think you're on that one.
Yeah, I think I volunteered to give the update.
Okay, excellent.
Christina already has enough on her plate to do. I can at least do the update part. So in the last agenda, you noticed that there was, of course, and I should get the name right, so I've got it. The Disaster Relief Infrastructure Fund. We'd gone after some funding for that one and had been denied, but thankfully they've come back to Christina and kind of nudged and said, hey, we really think you guys should apply again, just maybe narrow the scope. So we went really big last time and kind of said, the whole boundary. We want to know about water storage and water potential in the whole area. So what the group kind of came back down to is maybe a focused pilot project is what we're going to try for the funding for. And so focusing on the West Kettle. And the idea would be trying to actually get an idea of what, part of it is getting an idea of what is the actual water use in the area, what is the water draws, what's actually happening with the water to start, so we can kind of actually start building a plan, as well as that assessment of looking at a whole system from the agriculture point of view of some of the funding coming down the street of if there was to be water storage projects, where would be the most strategically or what would be the most strategic places to look at these sorts of projects. And so there's kind of there's a couple different deliverables that we're looking for out of that project. But I guess the main message for this group is we are going to go after that funding again and see if we can get support for that, because it is 100% funding of the project. And Christine, of course, has been awesome as usual with that one.
Well, RDKB okayed it. So it's in my work plan if it gets through. So there were 2 grants, and I'll speak to that. So
yeah, so this, I mean, we do so it's got like the agriculture lens on it in one sense, just because there is funding down the road to pursue some of these projects if the study does come back with some good data to it, and because of course agriculture is often seen as one of the big users in the area, and so just trying to get a better understanding of that. But this doesn't necessarily have to be narrow in scope to just agricultural users. So we would be trying to look at it more holistically of users on the whole system. Does that sound right, Christina?
Yeah, and yes. I like the idea of just it's sort of a starting point to try to figure out how we might be able to be expanded, but also be able to hold the privacy. That was one of the big conversations. This is collecting data, but making sure that we are able to keep privacy so that we end up having buy-in from private property owners.
Yeah, and to build a bit of a procedure on how do we do this so we can build it out into the rest of the watershed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great work. Tickety-boo, yeah.
Hopefully.
Any other updates related to that working group?
I think that's our biggest one right now, yeah.
And that's a good one. That's a really good one. I just
That's the current crisis.
Okay. Yeah. Access management. I guess that would be Julia.
Yeah.
I don't think there's been much progress. Julia?
Yeah, I there's no update. Nothing has.
Correct. Thank you. As I said to Julia, and no update is still an update. So. All right.
So on to the sector, RDKD. Boundary Integrated Watershed Service update. So that would be Christina. What Christina has been working on for the last 4 months.
Yes, yeah. So, just sort of feeding right into that grant update. So I just sort of put to the top one there. The Boundary Integrated Watershed Service grant was issued to 4 recipients. And we did have a bit of a struggle getting some of the checks out, but it sounds like some of the checks are out now, so thank goodness. So that was done. We're still very much into the rural riparian project. It ends in January. And as Lindsay was just talking about, we're submitting 2 more grant applications, or one, I still call it the boundary water supply, but it will be more focused to the west boundary with the procedures for the bigger picture. And then Area C alluvial fan refinement. So those were the 2 that I was given the go-ahead to move forward on. So for the rural riparian project, that's been pretty much taking up most of my time lately. We did have that May 1st, 5th, 2nd forum. Thank you very much. There were a lot of people from the group that attended, and I really appreciated it. And it was a lot of work, and just so appreciated everybody jumping in on and helping out with that. Communications, so Jenny Coleshill is our communications person. It's going to be working till the end of end of December. And so I did put a couple of her flyers up. So I encourage people to take some of those flyers and put them around. She's got a Lewis's Woodpecker Walk coming up pretty soon. Fly fishing for women. Had an amphibian info session, which was fantastic. So yeah, really encouraging it. We're going to be going out to a lot of the community farmers markets, fall fairs. So if any of the groups are interested in having us speak, I'm just excited to have another person helping out with communications at the moment. So I'm really pushing that of it right now. Donna unfortunately wasn't able to make it today. She had a family situation that she had to deal with. And I did say that I was okay being able to provide the update. And she apologizes for not being here because she had really intended to, just not in the region. So there are 2 OCPs that are, one that adopted, the Area C was adopted, as I switch between my 2 glasses and no glasses. Area C was adopted April 2024. Area E Big White is still in process, so that's going through with the consultants. So I do have some of the official OCP, but it really does talk a little bit about the guidelines. And so that sort of gives a good idea of the big picture as to why we're doing what we're doing. And happy to read those out to you guys if you're interested. But really looking at that long-term options or thoughts for the Area C.
Just to add to that, bylaws are not adopted yet that go along with that OCP.
Zoning bylaws are still under review. So
important.
Join the conversation. Their information is on join the conversation. I spoke with Joanne this morning. There's going to be public consultation coming up. It's going to be this summer. We don't have a date yet, but it's going to be, put out there on a variety of social medias, but it's certainly, I'm going to circulate it through this group as well, because I think we really need to get that information out there as fast as possible.
Totally agree.
The riparian development permit area did go to a community group for input and for review. They received a draft document from the RDKB recently, and I know that there is more discussion with the community group at RDKB on that one. So that is still being under review, and so hopefully we'll have that figured out of whether we move towards public consultation or whether it just stops. And that's pretty much got to get decided in the next couple of weeks.
It sure does. I want
If not 2 weeks, Well, it's kind of, Okay.
Well, who decides that?
It would be the community group, the directors, and the RDKB. It'd be a collective.
What's the public hearing?
What is?
Bylaws all go to public hearing.
What's the community group?
It's a riparian group that we, they felt they didn't have enough input. And so I said, okay, put together a committee, but there has to be off-lake people on it as well. Kathy O'Malley sat on that. And it's been going on for damn near a year.
Yeah, and we were given a year.
And they were given a year to put something together. I deliberately did not sit on that. For a very specific reason, because people tend to point fingers at you saying you're influencing, and I didn't want that to happen. Having said that, they came back with a document that, honest to God, is about 50 pages. It's ridiculous. quite frankly, and I probably shouldn't say that in a public meeting, but literally, it's huge. And no one's going to read it. So the regional district sent back some input to that effect.
Much appreciated. Thank you, planning department.
Yep, and so they were supposed to pare that down into something that's readable. And then from there, it'll be public consultation, but all bylaws and everything will need to go to public hearing, including that. And quite frankly, if I have my way, the resident of Christina Lake needs to get really involved with this. That lake belongs to everybody, Christina Lake, not just lakeshore owners. So that's my rant for today. Thank you.
Yeah, no, and it'll be interesting. Like, I know that there's conversations that are happening pretty quickly. With Donna, I heard about that yesterday, and so there was a date set, and I hope to see if we can move it up a bit, but.
Okay, I will see what happens, but honestly, as we sit here and we read everything and we attend everything and we pay attention and we know how important riparian is, period. Along with the noxious weed issue, and those things are so important, literally, and it's our job, I think, to look after what we have, and we're so damn fortunate to have it. So thanks.
Yeah, and there's a lot of resistance here for any kind of regulation in the lake.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why the document was so long is there had to be a lot of education of the group. And the group had to do their own learning, which is always, it's important. We haven't gotten quite yet, but a lot of progress in a year. And that's why it's so long.
I think
People
what
don't
annoys me,
understand how important it is and why it's in their own self-interest.
bingo.
Because all they see is government coming in and telling me what I can do with my land. Well, I'm a landowner too, and you tell me what I can do with my land. It's
Well,
just,
to a degree. We have a responsibility as property owners and community owners to find out information and to ask the questions and to listen. And that's been presented here over and over. And Mark Anderson and I started Riparian Talk probably 10 years ago on this lake. And I said, please, everybody, get together and create your own riparian. Because at some point, if you don't, something's going to happen. And quite frankly, maybe it needs to be the province that comes in and says, thou shalt not do. Okay. Thank you. I'll shut up again.
No, actually, it's a very important one because that's one problem with the boundary here and defense riparian is the lack of bylaws or any types of guidance or controls. And it's a very sad thing when you see people clearing right to the high water mark and all of what's gone. Yeah, anyway.
I think we need to be clear of what the choice is. We're either going to have something that's made in Christina Lake or we're going to have the provinces. Because there was a statement made in the first meeting that we delayed it 10 years, maybe we can delay it.
Like what they have.
Yeah. All right, so we should probably move on then. Oh, we're on to updates. Okay, so sector updates?
Yeah.
All right, so this is the part where we would love to hear from you about what's been going on in the last few months and for what is upcoming or new that group needs to be aware of. So we'll go through the sector updates in the order that's actually up on the board. So we're going to start off with large forestry, small forestry, agriculture, etc. So we'll go down through that list. So everybody's prepared when it comes to it. So forestry large, I believe that would be the tour and or forestry, right?
Yeah, there's nobody from BCTS.
Someone from BCTS, Naomi Taylor. Anybody still on?
I'm still on.
Okay, what's your update?
Yeah, summer update. We're busy working away on a number of projects in the boundary and continuing work on our watershed program. Not much more to report than that at this time. Looking forward to any discussions. If anyone has any questions, more than welcome to reach out to myself. But otherwise, it's business as usual, and good to be here.
That's a quick update. Forestry small, that would be woodlots, correct? I'm trying to put the photos up. Oh, yeah. Well, there is no one on woodlots here today, is there? Nope. No. Hey, agriculture. Oh, and you want to start with that?
It's still early season and we've been getting a decent amount of precipitation, so the water events up to this point shouldn't be too heavy. We'll see how the summer unfolds.
Okay. Anyone else? Agriculture? Yeah. Oh, Frank.
Yeah. I didn't know if you meant like row cropping or in the bush with the cows, but.
Yeah, we kind of grouped it all together.
But our group, the Kettle and River Stocklands, we haven't had a meeting, although we had a provincial meeting of the BC Cattlemen's Association in Cranbrook, where that was a 3-day event. It was pretty interesting. I think the two things that stood out for me were they have huge problem with elk in the Rocky Mountain Trench. We're getting off easy over here. They can't even seed their fields because there's no point. They'll get out there so quick and trample new seedlings. The other thing was the technology that's coming ahead, or that's developing with right there, the virtual fences and the global positioning tags are even more practical than the collars. And Alicia gave us one for our bird, which we put in a steady old range cow that always comes home late. And Debbie loves doing that. First thing in the morning, she goes on a computer. I know where they are. You can go ring salt right there. It's 8K. Yeah.
Bob Davidson was doing the same thing.
We got, I think, 17 tags that we distributed to various ranchers just to try them out. Let's see how long they work. Let's see if we're getting reasonable fixed rates on them, and let the government take the financial risk on it to let ranchers try them out at no cost. If it works great for them, maybe they'll invest in something further. These ones are not the virtual fence. Like, they don't control where the animals go at all. They just let you know roughly where they are.
What is the cost comparison between the collar and the tag, the virtual fence versus the
virtual fence has a lot of complications with connectivity, whether you need cell service or direct satellite. And so I think the collars are running 300 or 400 Canadian a piece, right? And the tags were 200 to 300. Okay. Somewhere in there, if I remember correctly. But yeah, all the tags do is give us a location. Yeah.
Just like
to see where your cows are. I think that's so neat.
It's great fun.
Yes, it saves a lot of gas.
Yeah.
We don't have to go up there every day to figure out where they are.
And we've got an agreement with all the ranchers saying we're not going to use this for any kind of enforcement. No. Just to keep that clear. And then for us to see where the cows are using, like, we want to look, are they always just in cut blocks? Are they going into the timber at all? Are they using forage in the heavier timber? Really good.
If I can add one more thing, the cow prices are really good. We've never seen them that good.
Really?
And they expect them to stay that way for a few years because the American herd is really down. It takes a while to replace that. So I was going to say, if forestry's in a decline with tariffs, the range cows could kill off the boy.
Yeah, balance it.
Yeah, the other thing that's putting pressure on the cattle market is the screwworm in Mexico. So the U.S. has shut down. They're on and off shutting down imports out of Mexico, which is also driving demand for Canadian beef.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, things you don't think about globally that are driving the cattle market, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Sorry, what's driving the cattle market?
There's a screwworm in Mexico in their beef herd, and so the US is not importing Mexican beef, which drives demand for Canadian beef.
Contagious.
Wow. I don't know much about it as far as animal health stuff. And from what I understand, it hasn't been like a hard slam shut border, but it's definitely restricting imports.
Any other agriculture related updates? Lindsay does it later, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Water systems.
I have 3 things. First is our freshet was incredibly easy this year. And we were a little nervous about it because of the logging that was done. And the people who watch the intake have been doing it over 20 years. And they said that this was the easiest freshet that they've ever seen. And I want to thank Interfor for working with, and his name escapes me, but the Soy's Indian Band, Dan McMaster, in reviewing and changing the logging plan based on their input. That we've seen, the outcome has been very good for us. So I'm very excited about that as a model that's being expanded. And further to that, there's 2 really good programs on ideas on healing the land after wildfires, lessons from the Stakamic Nation. Excellent. And it speaks to the value of engaging Aboriginal people and traditional knowledge in the management of lands and how they're seeing the difference between Western thinking in after wildfire and traditional practices after wildfire and the recovery rate of the land. So, love it. I'll give this information to Christina and she can put it in the minutes so you can see that. And I want to congratulate Christina for all the work that she's done to integrate that Aboriginal voice into the work that we do.
We are really lucky to have her. She's got some really good connections there. It helps the regional district big time.
Yeah. And the third thing is that this will be my last meeting. Yeah. I've been involved for ever 30 years.
Yeah, we both
have been envisioning
right
this
from day one. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's time for me to move on and let somebody else have the experience. So it's been really a pleasure and an honor to work with all of you, and it's so exciting to hear everything that is being done, to think back at those really early days when we were frustrated about no mechanism to have community voice in discussions about water. And as Joe Tans used to say, the fish have more rights than the people. And
we were so alone, weren't we?
Yes, we were. Voices in the dark. And look at where we are now. Yeah, I'm very excited about it. It feels like the right time for me to go.
Got a succession plan?
I don't. I'm sure Christina's given some thought. I've let Christina know. So you'll, by the next meeting, I'm sure you'll see somebody else. There is another water user community in the boundary. I don't know how they're organized, but there's lots of small water systems. But I think it's important to have somebody whose system is connected to the forest as opposed to not. Yeah. So that they get a better, I think it's a more authentic, not authentic, but it's just a different perspective. Have your water connected to the forest rather than an aquifer. Yeah.
just want to say thank you very much. You provided a lot of guidance, same as what I said before, and yeah, the strength and the history that you brought to this, to the group, it's really appreciated.
From my perspective, it's such a pleasure to work with you, right from day one, including fighting the Cascade Project. So, you know, we go back a long way, Kathy, and I just, what you brought to the table, we cannot replace that, ever.
Well, I'm still going to continue to work with Water User Community as the administrator. So I'll still be talking to, you know, talking to folks on that. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your years. That's been a lot. You were the chair of this group for years, and yes, so we will miss you, Kathy.
We will miss you, but community's in good hands.
We wish you the best. Yes.
You got a lot to go into.
Big shoes to fill there. But no, it's wonderful to have had all your input over the years, because as you said, she's easy to work with, right?
Well, she comes to the table with a way of thinking.
Open way of thinking, yes.
That's so important, and not everybody has that. Everybody has a different way that they approach something. And Kathy's way of approaching it was looking at the whole thing and finding a way to work through that. And so to me, it was something we really needed when we started out, even though we were working very closely with the Christina Lake Stewardship when we started this out, and before we hired Graham, and then we hired Graham. And that way of thinking was what is needed at those tables, because you run into brick walls if you don't think that way.
Thank you. All right, any other water system people? Yeah, big way, no?
Big Woods Industry.
Industry, okay. Mining, you're up.
So there's 2 exploration programs that are going on in the boundary. One is a private company that bought out all the claims that went into receivership up near Phoenix. And they've been doing a drill program right adjacent to the Phoenix pit. Because it's a private company, it's hard to get information. So presumably if it was very successful, we'll start to hear about it. And then there's a junior public company that's doing an exploration drill program just west of Grand Forks, sort of west of Hardy Mountain. And that's underway right now. This is very early stage. I don't expect anything significant to come of it. It would be, you know, this is sort of the very first baby step in the project.
What about the minerals that only Canada produces, that there's a lot of?
The critical minerals?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we have any of that around here? Do you know that? Or?
Yeah, so it's a long list. I think there's 34 critical minerals on the list, and they include zinc, copper, and then more specialty minerals, germanium and indium and whatnot. And there is special funding available if you're exploring just for critical minerals, but they have to be more than 50% of the value of the rock. And what tends to happen is you'll get zinc, but it'll come with lead and silver and a bunch of other things, or you'll get so. In the Kootenays is very rich in those kinds of minerals. We are more copper rich or gold rich in our area. So I don't know of any critical mineral projects in this area.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to industry. Gord?
Hey, yeah, so, I mean, the snow's finally melted up here. There's still a bit in the high levels. We had a bit of a snowfall the other day, which is normal this time of year, but freshet, like was mentioned before, was pretty easy this year. The snow seemed to come down slowly. All the high level snowpack was pretty slow to melt, and then in the last couple of weeks it's kind of picked up a little bit. So that's been pretty good. Both of our dam spillways are spilling over right now, and our reservoirs are at full pool and have been for a little while. The ice pack on Ronda Lake measured probably about 9 feet thick at the end of the ski season. So that is in relation to the entire reservoir level is about 20% of the reservoir is just trapped in ice. So until that melts, that takes a little while longer to melt. A couple other things we've been doing during the freshet while we have an abundance of water. We did fire flow and pressure testing on all of our hydrants up here to make sure they're in good working order. And then with our new water treatment plant, we did some fire flow testing with the fire department up here. So we got their ladder truck, which has a capability of 1,250 gallons a minute to produce. So we did some fire flow testing with that to see how our water plant would perform, and everything performed as expected, which was good. We were able to get the proper fire flows required for the different subdivisions up here for townhouses and single family homes and that kind of thing. Another thing we've been doing, we just integrated kind of the new water meters up here. We've been metered for a long time, but we've now upgraded to the new generation of water meters, which there's no moving parts. They're all ultrasonic meters, and they have leak detection on them, which we're going to eventually integrate into our billing system, which would alert homeowners of any potential leak they may have in their home. And it's pretty dialed in where it can detect a leak up to, a quarter of a cup, per hour, which would just be a small drip. If you had a small drip overnight from your faucet, it would send you an email alerting you of a possible leak and what to do to kind of look for it. So that's just kind of getting going and but been fairly successful. One of the places up here which has 10 units. They were wondering, these meters are also very good at measuring the water, better than the older ones. So we've had some homeowners wondering why their bill is so much. And it's because these meters are much more accurate. So we did find in that 10 unit place that he had probably about 7 leaking toilets, which and each one of these toilets are just small little leaks, but and over a course of a month or two, it starts to add up, and he couldn't believe how much water, we were losing just for that. So the leak detection, as far as that goes, has helped a lot. So we hope to integrate this a lot more as the time goes and get familiar with the software and these meters. So, and Thursday we open for mountain bike season, so that's pretty exciting up here. Everybody's getting ready for that. So opening day's this Thursday, and we'll get going with our summer activities up here.
Very good. Excellent. Sounds like a lot's going on up there. 9 feet of ice. Wow. That's cool. Anyone else in industry? I don't think so. Is there? No. Okay. NGOs. So I saw you just doing life stewardship.
Hi, it's my first time here, so thanks for having me. The Christina Lake Stewardship Society has been super busy already. We have started our water quality sampling that we do through BC Lake Stewardship. We've also begun our invasive mussel sampling in the lake, which is great. We've also been working on doing a bunch of new monitoring projects in the lake, such as monitoring for invasive and native turtle species, which is super awesome. It's a great project. And we are also doing some bat monitoring projects. So we build bat houses and we put them up around the lake. And we've been doing tons of outreach and education at the boat launches. And we've been doing lots of youth education programs on protecting the Christina Lake watershed. And yeah, not much going on, except for we do have a restoration project that was started a while back in our nature park, a shoreline restoration project. It's kind of just sat there for the last few years, just big garden tarps all over this side of the shoreline, unfortunately, but we are planning on getting that cleaned up this fall. So we'll be taking some of the cages that were around the cottonwoods, protecting some cottonwoods that we planted, and removing some of that landscaping tarp, and hoping to see some good things grow under there. So we'll see how it goes, but yeah. Other than that, not too much.
And if you haven't been down to see them, they've done a phenomenal job on their office. I walked in there today and had a look around and went, yes, this is really friendly.
It's very inviting.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else? Ray? You're up, Ray?
Just to let you know, I have to be back in Grand Forks at 11:30, so when I disappear, don't think that I lost interest. We continue to advocate for a new forest act that will see ecosystem-directed stewardship, establish community-based decision-making, and rebuild community-based economies. We have joined forces with the IWTF, or Interior Watershed Task Force, coalition of more than 20 NGOs, community organizations, and professionals advocating for the legal protection and preservation of water, primary forests, wildlife, and critical habitats in the interior of BC. We are also advocating for a 3-zone forest classification system involving protection of primary or natural forests, that would include old growth, the restoration of some previously logged forest, and the better management of commercial forests. We have embarked on a small research water sampling project under the guidance of the ONA, hydrologists, and funding from EIWS, Boundary Integrated Watershed Service. We have been meeting with and presenting to MLA Donegal Wilson. We are considering hosting a public viewing of the Narwhal-sponsored video, Trouble in the Headwaters, that follows Dr. Eunice Alias, UBC geology professor, through his study of the 2018 Kettle River flood. I can give you a copy of that.
You guys have been busy. Good for you. That is so good to see that much involvement. Thank you. Yes, thank you for that update. All right, so next is tourism. Recreation? Well, she said tourism. Recreation. Tourism. Wow.
Okay, well, I just want to put on the calendar for everyone here that I'm actually on the board of directors for the Outdoor Recreation Council of BC. And they are a provincial organization that brings together recreation groups from, throughout the province. And they're having their 50th anniversary, and they're celebrating it with a conference that's going to be held in Kamloops at the Thompson Rivers University. And it's going to be on May 20th to 22nd. So it'll be kind of like, what Christina and Aaron and everyone put together, but it'll have a focus on outdoor recreation, obviously. But it'll bring together, industry, First Nations, the recreation leaders, the volunteers, the, government. It'll be good. So put that on your calendar, May 20th to 22nd, 2026. Oh, wow. Yeah. And then this kind of threads in with what everybody else is talking about, but the connectivity of the land is super important for wildlife. And I happen to be a volunteer on the Regional Wildlife Advisory Committee for the Thompson Okanagan region. And that was part of an offshoot of the Together for Wildlife that started like in 2022 or so. And one of the things that's interesting about this committee from the Thompson Okanagan is that the province decided not to continue to fund it for us meeting. And we don't really have a good reason for that that has been given to us. But the Wild Sheep Society is maybe stepping up and going to be, hopefully making that happen. So, again, it's NGOs that, but there's also a new, I'm particularly interested in badgers, and there's a new initiative from the province that is hopefully going to use the sighting of the badgers and, investigation of where their dens are and everything to connect up, the landscapes. And what's really interesting is a couple years ago up on the Trans-Canada Trail, where there was like a 700-hectare clear cut done on private land up Wilkinson Creek, there was a badger on the rail trail one day. And so anyway, they do disperse, but, whether or not, they're hanging out and actually taking up, space there, I want those provincial biologists to know that, they need to be down here as well, and not just in the Okanagan and up at the Thompson and that sort of thing, because we have them here too. And, it's super important across the line down south. So people come here to see the critters, like they always want to know where the bears are, and, they're thrilled to see a moose, and it's, we need to get some comprehensive work done, in this watershed that regulates visitor use management as well, because there's lots of private property signs that are going up everywhere. There's people that are asking, at least at the Riverside Center, which is a newish Destination BC tourism site. They want to know where not to go, or where to go to not find people. It's so interesting.
There's
right?
nowhere left.
Yeah, I know, exactly. It's so interesting. So, they're going places that's where the locals are, and, then the locals get upset, and it's, it's just getting crowded out there. And so obviously the critters are getting crowded out as well. And, we've got, lots of roads everywhere, lots of invasive species being moved, and, education is great, but there's also, it would be nice to, set up some areas where could be more conservation minded, because that's really what I think the public is looking for. So, at least the tourists.
Did we not have fisher people that used to sit on this committee? Like there's a fisher people, like a guides committee. No, there's no, there
used to be a boundary fisher,
yes,
fishing club or something, but it has not been active for a while as far as I know.
Because they're the fisher people, trying to be so polite, are the ones that did that dock at Wilbursley.
That was the GFWA.
That was what?
BC Wildlife Federation.
That was a GFWA through BCWF.
And it needs a lot of work apparently on it.
They've done a ton of work.
Oh, have they?
Yeah.
Just recently?
They're on it every spring.
Oh, okay.
My husband and Jeff Gailey are the ones that are up there putting it together and getting mad because they add stuff and people steal it. Like, they put an ashtray. Because we ashtray. Like, it's been recently vandalized.
Yeah, okay, because we keep getting those reports, my Park and Rec.
Yeah, it's the Grand Forks Wildlife Association that's been maintaining them.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and that is just like incredibly used. I mean, it's prior to COVID, prior to the pandemic, I mean, it was like, it was quiet, but now it's just like,
I love it.
They campaigned hard to get that in there.
Yeah, they sure did.
Yeah, they worked hard to get that done. Yeah, so, that's another piece is, with the river, there's one fisheries person that's now based out of Penticton, and I can't remember her name. You probably know. Yeah, so she's the one person for like a huge region. And, you know, I've tried to connect with her, but she's got a lot on her plate. But there's just lots of people who don't know that there's actually even fishing regulations and they need a fishing license, right? So, you know, like in the park at the rec area in Kettle River, I know, you know, sometimes they can, you know, find people to go talk to them and stuff like that. But there's nobody out on the land that's, you know, really helping with that at all. And it's quite interesting.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I'm like really interested in like getting it all kind of fit together, but there's so many different people working on different things. It's hard to kind of, you know, it's, what do you call it? The gophers, you know, when whack-a-mole. Yeah, whack-a-mole. That's what it is. So, yeah.
Can I throw in one thing that's sort of tourism mining related? So there was a lot of local media attention to an individual in West Grand Forks that had some private property, and he was running a mining museum and underground tours of a mine, and that's been shut down. And I know there's, you know, two sides to the equation, but from industry point of view and government point of view, he was very non-compliant in a lot of regulations and encouraging, you know, I think it encourages people to...
It was reckless.
Yeah, reckless.
I could say it was reckless.
Yeah. And so, you know, I'm very glad that there is a brilliant underground mine museum at Kimberley that's, you know, world-class, and people can go there. And I think, you know, to have small individuals trying to replicate that is just dangerous.
Well, and it gives mining a bad name. It's hard to overcome that. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Roslyn just got, I think, $1 million to fix up their.
So they had a wonderful museum, and they just haven't been able to maintain.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess that goes to community reps. Is there someone other than me? Member large, not just me. So I'll update on a few things. Start with boundary invasive stuff. So there's plans this year again for a lot more yellow flag iris removal. So a number of landowners, particularly in the Christina Lake area, are really keen on starting to remove this stuff, which is very encouraging. So Darren has been working hard on that. Also Jewel Lake, there's expected to be treatment happening at Jewel Lake, and then Idabel Lake again, and there may be another pond happening. So making a lot of progress. It's very hard work, but we found that tree planters are awesome. They're really tough people. They love it because they actually feel like they're doing something really good. So also, yeah, there will be sampling for invasive mussels in the Kettle River, and also Jewel Lake's been added back on. So there'll be 2 spots in the Kettle plus Jewel Lake that Boundary Invasives is doing. Also following up, Darren has been mining for information from all the reports of things we've had over the years that never got reported up to the province, and he's been putting in a whole bunch of invasive fish reports and all kinds of things that have kind of been like, you know, those post-its you get on your desk and they just don't get it reported. Anyway, so Darren worked on that this spring, which is great. Anyone who hasn't met him, Darren McBee. He's pretty much taken over for Boundary Invasives. So I think that's there is going to be a little bit as well of some inventory aquatics. We're concerned about the knotweed coming down the Granby River, the Japanese knotweed, also some giant knotweed over Christina Lake area here. So he is working with the province on trying to get control of that. So those are kind of the water-related things that are a big concern. So taking off that hat, putting on the hat as the Boundary Habitat stewards, I guess Jenny Coldzell and myself and several members of our crew have been doing a whole lot of planting. I think we're up over 4,500 plants went in the spring. Between stakes and plants, doing riparian planting. So we have a number of sites. This is mostly supported through the Farmland Advantage program, which now has a new name, which I'm not even sure of, agriculture stewardship or something. But it is continuing with planting of riparian on private land, which is good. And it looks like there's taking on 3 new projects for this fall, 3 new sites. So 1 in Kettle Valley and a couple more up the Granby, which is very good. So slowly but surely, we are planting.
I'm pretty encouraged because I think in the last like 2 years, we've done 4 kilometers of riverbank, which actually is a lot. It's a huge area. We've done a lot. So anyway, Jenny is awesome. We never see her at meetings because she's just too busy, but we've been working on it and we've been refining irrigation, and we're also working on the project through the Habitat Conservation Trust Fund on trying to mimic nature in our restorations to do less planting and more, how do we get the cottonwood to regen on its own? And we're looking at irrigation systems right now on testing out different types of irrigation systems that are low water use to try to do it. And then also how we're exposing it. So things like backhoes exposing areas of ground that are then getting flooded. Like we're doing a bunch of testing to figure out how to passively restore riparian at much less cost. That's funded through the Habitat Conservation Trust Fund. And Christina was out helping us yesterday and got to see some of what Jenny's working on, which is great. So that would be my update, unless there's anything else I need to cover. And I would say Christina and crew did an amazing job at the Watershed Forum. That was really, really, really good, and we need to do it again. And I think that, I don't know how we do it again, but I definitely heard feedback from people. It's about time this happened, and we need to do it again. So, Christina, we need to do it again.
She's like, as long as you can clone Christina, and we need 3 Christinas.
We need 3 Christinas to do it though. Anyway, but very good feedback. So that would be everything on my side, and then we should go to.
A question, Barb, about the invasive weeds, if we can go back to that.
For sure.
On our rate, I'm getting pretty alarmed about the yellow hawkweed.
Yeah.
And it's just spreading up all the roads. It's going into some of the cut blocks, and then it chases out the grasses. And I wonder if there's any chance of a biological control.
So the most recent research, they found one control, or 2 insects have been approved, one for orange hawkweed, one like what's called mostly hawkweed. Neither of which we have. They are still looking for insects for the yellow hawkweed species. There's a group of 3 that are in our area, but it's not looking very promising, and there's nothing on the horizon coming soon. What I would say is teach your cows to eat it. Cows on weeds, with the hawkweeds, it's way out the barn door. We are not stopping it. They're still looking for biocontrol, but we're a long ways off them finding anything successful.
I think the deer graze it.
Oh yeah, the deer poop it. Yeah, it's still the poop. I've seen it grow up big cow pies.
But they're not putting a dent in it.
Oh no, no. It doesn't produce near as much forage as the grass does. So even if they do eat it, it doesn't produce, the forage quantity is way down. So there's just less of it. Okay, on to forestry then. Yeah. Natasha?
Sure. I don't know if there's anyone else from MOF on the forestry side here, so I just wanted to mention that the boundary timber supply review, so the forest landscape planning process is going to come out in dribbles and drabs, and so the boundary area, timber supply area, it's going to go through the old process of the timber supply review. It's just, we don't know what the FLPs look like, so I think it's going to take a long time for boundary to get an FLP, a forest landscape plan. So I have seen some drafts of some of the data package. So I think if you kind of keep your eyes open, the data package should be coming out in the next few months, I believe. I've seen some drafts of the water component, and I'm relatively pleased with it. So I hope you'll all read it and contribute feedback, because that's what the process is about.
How much time do you have to provide feedback?
Yeah, that I don't know.
Usually had a year, but
yeah,
I suspect they won't give us that much this time.
Or is it quite a
But it
year
is already a year behind.
Yeah. I'm worried about giving it too much, then people leaving and then it getting delayed.
Yeah. Okay. But I think there's a lot of excellent viewpoints here, so I hope that they don't speed it up. Yeah. But so just so you're aware that it's going through the older process, it's going to be the review. In terms of the research side, we've had a lot of fiscal constraint, and justifiably so, within government. And so on the research side, there's a lot of uncertainty around funding for projects. So the work that we're doing with ONA and with the Boundary Watershed Stewardship Society, we're trying to figure out exactly how much money we're going to get on our side for the sample analysis, and we're moving ahead. So just an FYI, things are going to be tight within government for a while. Probably 5 years we're probably looking at, unless something magical happens. Apparently these things happen sometimes, but yeah, but the all plan is to go ahead with using the natural chemistry of the water to assess flow paths in the Kettle River watershed. So that's it for me.
Julia, I know you were in forestry. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I don't have anything to add.
Okay. All right, so if there's no one else under forestry, then so Walrus, I don't think there's anyone on Walrus here, Waterland Resource Stewardship, the one side. And we'll have forestry, I guess we kind of covered that. That leaves range.
Yeah, we sort of chatted already. There was a bit of a push to look at dams licensed to the province for livestock watering. And I found 2 that are licensed in our district. Neither of them are dams. We went and looked at them with Branch. We're like, it is storing water. It's not a dam. They're just dugouts, but kind of cool to see because I didn't even think there'd be water in them. There's quite a bit of water in them. Other than that, not a whole lot new. Like Natasha was saying, there is no money, which reminds me on the biologist side in Region 8, I don't know if we have a biologist left in Region 8. Yeah, it's pretty neat. So like our wildlife biologists that deal with allocations and all that fun stuff, one went up to the Peace, one went to ONA, and I don't know if there's anybody left. That is not rehiring, I don't think. There's no external hiring right now. Yeah, and same with enforcement in this area. We have one conservation officer, and it will likely remain that way for the next 12 to 18 months.
We're going to pay such a price for all of this. You know, but seriously, you can never catch up. Never. Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
You can pedal that, but you can never catch him. I feel so bad for you guys when you get that happening because you're spinning, trying to do the best things you can do, right? Get creative. Yeah. You have to, right? But it's hard.
We do our best, yeah. Yeah, unfortunately for range, it's me and Stephanie, and I don't think either of us is going anywhere in the near future. So well, thank goodness for that. Sort of been around and starting to get a pretty good feel for what's going on around here.
I know that I'm very appreciative of, the tie-in with Mr. Forest, range and agriculture and yeah. Go for it, right?
Couple of meetings ago, or a couple of years ago, we identified the fact that we had nobody from government representing water. And we sent an invitation out to Walrus, and somebody came to the next meeting. Now we don't have anybody again. I'm just wondering, do we need to shake the bushes again to get somebody from Walrus?
Well, so yeah, the question had been, we need somebody from Walrus. So we did put it out, and Tim Davis is sitting in, and Steve is off, and Steve's just off right now, which is why he's not attending. Natasha is here as the research hydrologist, tied in. I realize with Ministry of Forest, but also very connected in with the water stewardship team, who is now Walrus on that side. Calvin Beebe, who is the section head, is tagged into this as well and is able to be, is certainly available for questions. And I just know workloads is preventing them from sitting on. But I also know that they're in fairly close proximity to Natasha in the Nelson office. Am I speaking okay? I sort of look it over. Am I allowed to say that? Yeah. So I think we do have that representation of water. with it, and with the drought, yeah, it'd be nice to have somebody sitting in. I know that Calvin's been to a couple of our meetings now. And we have Barry speak at the meeting, and they're all water, specifically water stewardship.
Yeah. If we can kind of talk and chat and see if there's might be someone else that might be appropriate as well, but yeah, Tim Davis is like habitat person, and so he's very interested and engaged with this group.
But also we're involved with the notifications, like the Water Sustainability Act notifications, that is reviewed and issued by the aquatic team, Tim Davis.
And I would just say that they have been working very hard to help us get notifications through riparian planting. Between Stephen and Tim, they've been amazing at making my job easier to do riparian planting, which is really appreciated. So don't think that they're not involved, because they have been pushing to get things. They're limited in what their legislation currently says, and with their current workloads, they're revamping kind of their system on notifications and approvals and what kind of projects they'll kind of allow. So there's a whole lot of unknowns there. And maybe at some future meeting, we'll go over the new rules, but I think there has been involvement. So I wouldn't be that concerned that they're not at this meeting today, because they are working in the background.
And I think the other thing I probably doesn't add is, just as a general for everybody, is that the thing that I've heard a lot about feedback from is it's this meeting that's also helped be able to move some of these things forward, because everybody's got their capacity issues and their limitations. So it's being able to say, I can do this small little section. If somebody else can tag in on this part and be able to better understand it. So yeah, kudos to everybody at the table and on the line here. We're attending into these meetings. It's been really helpful for being able to try to get some of these things out. I know that we wouldn't have had that forum without this group. There's just too much knowledge in this that allowed us to be able to figure out what do we need to have out there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so we're kind of close to our time here, but Lindsay, this will be Agriculture Ministry. Is there anything further you'd like to add beyond the working group update?
I guess just as a heads up to this group, that agriculture water infrastructure program that had that stream, the stream 3 still is open for any sort of engineering or assessment projects on a community level that people are looking at, but they're just, as a heads up, they are looking at opening up some other streams on that and again, it'll be focused on community projects. So not that this necessarily has to be just agriculture, but it does have to have an agriculture component to it. So it can incorporate other uses in a community, but it's looking like, I'm told, possibly keep an eye open up in July that they'll be opening up a stream to help fund more of these community assessments at a higher level. Possibly October, November, they'll be opening up a fully new stream of funding, looking at targeting areas that have been identified as high risk. So definitely the Kettle falls into that it's been identified provincially by Walrus as a high risk area for water. So some of these, and I guess this is just what we're trying to build towards with some of these assessments, is to be ready to go when these types of funding opportunities, that if we did want to implement something to help with the community water management, that's the type of funding that's coming up. And then potentially next year in the fall of 2026, they're hoping to open up again for producer projects. So yeah, like you said, funding is kind of tight. So I guess we get really excited when there actually is opportunities potentially coming in the landscape to help with these things. But yeah, other than that, the usual phone calls lately about livestock at large, reminding people, a lot of people in the boundary, their livestock can wander beyond their perimeters. But when I do hear people complaining about cattle in the stream, trying to redirect them to the Ministry of Environment with the RAP lines, so reminding people that if they do suspect any sort of environmental damage happening, that to please take that to the RAP line for, I guess, our one conservation officer to deal with.
The one thing that's been brought up to me recently is improvement districts looking to do some of the metering, and I must have been listening to Gord's comment about his water meters and being able to tag or email the people immediately to say that you've got a problem that was pretty impressive. Is that part of this funding that an improvement district might be able to get water meters?
If
For their
agriculture's
users?
Yep.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, if agriculture is part of that water community, then I would say go for it.
Okay. So I guess with that, we are starting our break 3 minutes early. Woo, yay. All right, so 20-minute break, and then we're going to be returning for the presentation on irrigating principles and plant selection, which, considering climate change, this is something we all need to be thinking about, is what are we growing, how much water are we using for these things, are they going to survive? So this will be interesting. Yeah. And I think there's what, coffee and snacks?
Yeah, and coffee, probably put the water back on, and yeah, help yourselves.
We'll return at 11:10 for those online, so you get to have your coffee
Taking a
snacks.
20-minute break.
Pardon?
I'm sorry. Why are we taking a
The joys of modern technology. Thank you, Justin.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right, can you guys hear me? Oh, I love that. Look at the nod. Thank you very much. It's your nod. Hey, you're back in. Right. I just say all right every once in a while because I'm trying to make sure we had a lot of feedback with our mic, but I think I have now turned on everything. And we have Sigrid Kendrick standing in front of our audience. So hopefully, the owl is just going to take us a little bit of time as we sort of rework that one again, because I've just switched it back to my computer. So hopefully we'll get Sigrid on coming in live through the camera pretty soon. But until then, as long as you can hear us, that's sort of our main one at the stage. Pass it over.
Okay, thank you so much for coming to, inviting me here to speak to you. A little bit of my background. I came to my plant addiction. Honestly, my Australian grandfather was a renowned rose breeder in New South Wales. I took my Master Gardener program in 2014, came on the OPSA board in 2015, and took over from Gwen Steele, who founded the Okanagan Aerospace Association in 2019. Lived all over the world, and for 17 years in Saudi Arabia, where there's no water, and water is actually life and death there. But we had situations when we were camping and vehicles breaking down and stuff like that. So I really appreciate exactly how important our water resource is. So can they see?
They can, yes. The audience can't. Ends up that the online folks get a better option than the ones in person. So yes, well, it's moved over pretty fast here. Oh.
My normal presentation is between an hour and an hour and a half, so this is just like the key tidbit takeaways.
Can you make it full screen?
Yeah. Okay, so xeriscape is gardening with nature, really the most accessible way to garden and consider your sustainability. I, for years, have lived in Joe Ridge, which is quite high in Kelowna, outside of Kelowna, in the mountains, though I was about 4,000 feet. I was constantly trying to push zone 5 plants there, and you know, they would work for a couple of years and then disaster would strike. So you can fight against Mother Nature or not Mother Nature, but you never win. So why xeriscape? Reduces your water use, saves money, increases your home value, saves time, promotes sustainability, leading to a healthier environment, and eliminates your need for chemicals. So this is was done by Ondell, who's really been at the forefront of sustainable landscape down in the US for 30 years or so. So that just shows you what you're saving, not just water, but your time and dollars. This was this is from the Okanagan Basin Water Board. I am not a golfer. I erroneously thought that golfers, like the golf courses, were the worst for water use. They're actually not. Now that 12%, so that's our outdoor water usage, which is second only to agriculture. When we started educating with the Okanagan Basin Water Board 10 years ago, that number was 24. So in 10 years, we've halved that number, which I'm pretty happy about. But as you can see, it's still the second biggest use of water. So we've got a lot. I think we've got a long way to go. Let's put it that way. That is our water consumption in the Okanagan. I'm assuming it's probably similar here. You guys get basically twice as much precipitation as we do there. But we are so wasteful with our water. So you can see that's us, Canadians. Appallingly wasteful. What's Saudi Arabia's? I don't know that. So much of it is desalinized. So planning and design, first step in thinking about any of your changes. You know, if you're inheriting a garden or if you're starting new, so important. I'm just going to say that while the internet is a fantastic resource, there is so much misinformation out there. We have a thing called Kelowna Garden Enthusiasts on Facebook, and I go on there just to be entertained because it's terrifying. It's actually terrifying, the misinformation on there. So look at your sources. For me, I always go to Chicago Botanical, Missouri Botanical, stuff like that. Just be aware of that because there is a lot of misinformation out there. So not sexy, not going to your nursery and getting the latest tree peony or something like that. So important. It really was, you know, we joked when we took the Master Gardener course that if we didn't know what the answer, say add organic matter, because you really can't go wrong. And that's the situation with your soil. I had 2 greenhouses and I'm running around in the spring. You know, I'm the geek with the light on at 9 o'clock at night so I can do things in the greenhouse. Well, all of the other plants that you get, you know, from wherever that are in the number 5 or number 4 soil mix needed to be watered every day. The plants that I got from my Master Gardener mentor who had been working her property, she's been there for 50 years and has been amending the soil. That soil held water so well compared to the other soils. And it wasn't until, you know, you can hear something and then you just, wow, it really clicks. So one of the best things you can do is to amend your soil with organic matter. Practical turf areas. This is, how much time do I have? 30 minutes, 20 minutes. Okay, so another 10, 15, something, yeah. So practical turf areas, the Okanagan Basin Water Board, their last AGM, they invited the gentleman up from, who's actually in control of the Nevada Waterworks. And you know they have huge problems there. Well, he said they are, as of 2027, they have no turf down there. It's completely, yeah. So playing fields and cemeteries, that's it. And that's what we have to be thinking about. Why it's this addiction to turf grass that's absolutely ridiculous. It does nothing for us and takes water, chemicals, mowing. I mean, it's just, it's something that we have to, it's a cultural shift that we have to make, is to get away from, I mean, it's a go-to in the industry. The boys roll out the turf and they stick in the cedar hedges. What are we doing, people? Like, we have to change. As a species, we are so inflexible. So yeah, practical turf areas, really ask yourself, what are you using your turf for? There are so many great turf alternatives, and I'll discuss that in my longer presentation. Which is this afternoon at the Boundary Museum and Archives. Efficient irrigation. We gave, put on a professional workshop this last February, and we had, people talking about tree roots, all sorts of different things. Fantastic day. I think we had 9 presenters, and it was a 10-hour day. It was long, but talked about coming away with a lot of information, and a lot of it was about the leaps and bounds that the irrigation industry is making. So I know we all like to be DIYers, kind of scab it together. It's expensive up front, but it will save you so much money to have a professional do it. The regional district of the Central Okanagan has determined that you can decrease your water consumption by 30 to 50% just by switching to drip irrigation. So that's right at the roots of the plants. It's not spraying around in the air and being evaporated. You're not watering at 2 o'clock in the afternoon in the summer. Very important, efficient irrigation. And it also cuts down on your weeds because you're not spraying this whole area. Appropriate plant collection. This is usually where I get into all the beautiful plants, but unfortunately we don't have time for that. But Xeriscape is beautiful. If you aren't familiar with our website, just Google Okanagan Xeriscape Association. We have a plant list on there, plant database with over 500 plants. You can search by 26 search categories. You can search by water requirements, bloom time, bloom color. So you can really tailor it to what you're looking for. There's this misconception that Xeriscape is rocks and like a yucca or a cactus. There are so many drought-tolerant plants, lots of them from similar environments, obviously, to ours. South Africa, Australia, the Mediterranean, all sorts of beautiful plants. So take a look at those. And this is, so I don't know if you can actually see that very well, but on the far left, that is your turf grass. And then as you move over, those are all of our natives. So they have evolved for hundreds of thousands of years to deal with, look at what they're having to deal with. I mean, it's an 80-degree temperature. We have -40 and we have +40. I think you guys have this similar, right? Mm-hmm. Vancouver, what, -10, +25? So we're asking our plants to do a lot, and they're having to do it with those fluctuations. And as we know, with climate change, we've seen crazy things. You know, we've seen how many years ago was the heat dome? And then we've had the atmospheric river, and it just goes on and on and on. I mean, two springs ago, I took out 57 lavender plants from a client's, and lavender has always been a go-to xeriscape plant. The conversation with all master gardeners now is, what are we going to use instead? Is it going to be a salvia? Is it going to be a nepeta? Is it going to be a veronica? Because something that was traditionally used and mass planted is showing
that's not keeping up. And it is our general belief that these guys are gonna do it, the natives, because they are tough. And so many people say to me, well, it looks weedy, or I don't like it, or it doesn't bloom very long. We have to start, let me just turn this off. We have to start thinking about we have to connect our aesthetic with what is sustainable. A couple of years ago, Kelowna has this flower power garden tour, and I ranted about it in one of my columns. I think I really kind of went off. But there was a garden done by an influencer for an influencer, and it was all boxwoods and hydrangeas. And it was looked all beautiful. Everybody walked in, oh, it's just so beautiful. I walked into the garden and felt vaguely nauseous, and then turned around and left. And went to a sustainable garden that, if you ever get the chance, is behind the Laurel Packing House. And that's primarily natives and a few non-natives that stuff with seed and sparrow planted. Absolutely beautiful. It's sustainable. It's not when we have water restrictions, or if we have water restrictions, it's when. So we have to start planning for that. And interesting, the guy who came from Nevada said, you know, they were mining Lake Mead at 2 points because it's dropping. Well, he was head of a $1 billion project for 15 years to essentially put a bathtub drain in the bottom of the lake. And he said that was completed 6 months before Vegas would have run out of water. So we have to start thinking further down. It's not tomorrow or next week. We have to start thinking about the future. And if the future is getting drier and it's getting hotter. I went to a climate projection thing at UBC just before COVID hit. And she had accurately depicted where we were in 1990, where we are now. And she said by 2050, Kelowna is going to be having 90 days of plus 30 degrees. So I don't know, but you know, and erratic weather. So we've got to start planning for that now. I kind of went off topic there, didn't I? Mulching, again, not sexy. The very best thing you can do for your plants or your garden is to mulch. It moderates your temperature, keeps the roots cool, suppresses weeds, keeps the moisture in your soil. And this is not mulch. The boys will come along and, you know, spread it so it aesthetically looks like it's been mulched. This isn't going to do anything. You need 4 inches minimum to suppress your weeds and do everything that you're putting your mulch on there. You can't really put too much mulch down. It's it's the very best thing you can do for your garden. But you need to put a proper amount down. So often I have clients say, I mulch, why do I have leaves? And I go, and there's, you know, this much mulch. So 4 inches in your veggie and perennial beds, 6, 8 more in your shrub around your trees. But please don't, I call it volcano mulching. The city of Kelowna is infamous for doing it. So they've got the mulch off the trunk of the tree like that. Not like that, like this. You're just inviting disease if you mulch halfway up the trunk of the tree. This is actually our West Kelowna garden. When we first planted it up. Yeah. Do you want questions at the end? Sure. Maintenance, we have to do it. Every garden, you know, I have clients come to me and say, well, I don't want to, and that's part of the planning part. Like, if you have a garden, if you're not going to take care of it, you have to allocate resources, i.e. money, to pay somebody else to take care of it.
And sorry, that door will not stop doing that. It will not.
The person working on it.
No. It's got a mind of its own, and I thought if you fastened it, it would quit. It does not quit.
Sorry, for those on the line, we have a door that is squeaking. That's driving everyone in the room nuts. So just bear with us a moment. They try to get it to
close, but you can continue on.
So yeah, maintenance. And especially, I don't know if you have any identification here for weeds. Like, do you have a local, we have Oasis, the Old Mountains.
Boundary Invasive Species Society.
Yes.
Yeah, hearing you online again.
So really, it's so important to be educated about your invasive. I battled, with.
You're online.
I think it was just the door she couldn't hear.
I battled with thistles at my property for 19 years.
Oh my God.
I mean, they're amazing in some ways because those seeds can remain viable in the soil for something like 50 to 60 years. And they throw out 10,000 seeds. So if you know you have weeds and don't have a chance to get to them, cut off their heads, like Henry VIII. And don't let them go to seed, because then then your problem is exponentially worse, right? So maintenance. Another part of maintenance is pruning. Pruning should not be to control the size of your shrubs or trees because you overplanted to begin with. So often I have clients who say, I want it to look full at the very beginning. Well, that's not how it works. If you want it to look full, stick in your annuals. That's a great time to, fluff things up, make it sparkly. So often I see the boys and they're tip pruning. They're going around, and they're making barberries and things like have that beautiful weeping habit, or the physocarpus, the 9-bar, and they're making it into geometrical shapes and charging you money to do it. Like, what is going on here? It's absolutely insane. So, and if you can't figure out that from here to here is 4 feet, and something that's planted over there is going to get 4 feet by 4 feet, take your tape measure out and, mark it out, because that your part of maintenance should not be pruning to control size in any way, shape, or form. Do we have some questions?
You would hate my garden.
It's a common.
What do you think of using rock? Oh, the rock that we have a gravel garden in our demonstration garden, which if you get to Kelowna, you should come and see. It's in front of the Aquatic Center on Gordon.
No.
And the gravel garden is lovely. What I don't like is that those big irregular rocks that they tend to dump down. Like, you can't kneel on those. You're going to break your ankle if you're walking on them. And they throw so much heat. So why? What's that?
Yeah, they do.
They are good for deterring the deer in Grand Forks from walking on your garden.
Seriously? I know you guys have a deer problem. We have a huge deer problem in Kelowna, especially in the Upper Mission. I've turned around and one's been right there. It's a bit like they've become so habituated to humans. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But if you're going to use a lot of rock, just be aware that it does throw a lot of heat. So you're asking if it's 40 degrees, the plant's getting like 45 or 50 in that big bed of rock. And that will be more irrigation needed then, for water?
What kinds of mulch do you use?
I typically use Nature's Gold Premium, because another thing, and just so we're going to totally go off topic here, we're working a lot with the Kelowna Fire Department to get our messaging about fire smart practices cohesive. And they are, if somebody tells you you can't use organic mulch, tell them that they don't know what the hell they're talking about. You can use organic mulch. The fire department is fine with the mulch as long as it is fine, very fine. They don't like the chunky stuff.
Like hay?
What's that?
Like hay?
Yeah, they probably, like hay. But they're fine with the fine mulch, just not in that first 5 feet from your home. There, they want something, like a rock mulch, right? But don't let anybody tell you you can't use organic mulch.
So I'm just gonna jump in. So we actually, at this afternoon's presentation, we're gonna have a Fire Smart representative there as well. They're gonna speak to some of this, and they also, Fire Smart has got a really good landscaping guide, which really addresses this. So yeah, there's some messaging that you've gotta have everything within, don't have any mulch within 10 meters, and it isn't meters. That's what's, I've been hearing this, and that's not what's being shown in the landscape guide. So that's
There's a lot of misconception. That's why we're working with them to try. They are very supportive of leveling and they do not want you to cover your entire property with rocks.
So one of the things that's happening in now these are more larger centers is the heat island effect. And that's been just the xeriscaping with a rock basis, and it's just producing this, really high temperatures, high temperatures. More money for air conditioning. You're getting rid of all your passive cooling components, and then causing, of course, your heat exhaustion and heat strokes.
With the mulch, you're talking 4 inches, which is great for weeds. But the whole idea with mulch is that there's moisture under it, right? So even if you have it close, it should not combust anyway, because there's going to be moisture retained in that finer mulch, right? Yes. That's why they don't like the big mulch, because it dries out and then it becomes very combustible. So it's another very good reason to listen to the fine mulch is the way to go. And you do have to keep it a little bit watered and it will totally moderate temperature. Yeah, it's very, very useful.
It's absolutely, as I said, it's not sexy, but it's absolutely the best thing you can do.
What plants are you recommending that people do use in their xeriscape?
We have 500 of them on our website. And go to the plant database.
Yeah, I really like xeriscaping, but I'll tell you what, my husband, after 60 years, would divorce me. Literally, when I get rid of that one. Oh, he was so attached to his
Why is it smaller? What is it about
I've tried everything that you can imagine, and I'm just like,
so just so everyone knows, that's a learned response that people have learned that based on growing up, but it's going away with the generation. So the generation, my daughter's generation, they think lawns are stupid.
Yes.
They're like, why would I have that? Your generation. Just this is pointless. It'll change over time, and so properties will change away from lawns because our social norm is changing, which is very good.
Well, anyway, we're keeping our kids inside, plugged to a device rather than having them out playing on.
Actually, the kids, they're not, when they're plugged into a device, they are learning so much. I don't think we really appreciate how much this generation knows, and their attitude is very different. It's actually encouraging. It's encouraging. Yeah, anyway, we are probably going to have to move on. So any quick question or anything last things you want to say? And I would encourage you to go to her 1.5 hour talks. It'll be amazing.
Christina has just pulled up our plant database. So
for those online, you're not going to see it, but you go to the Okanagan Xeriscape database, plant database, which I'll give you the link in the chat. Go ahead.
Perfect.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
For the slow introduction of getting Sigrid in here, I really wanted to be able to help support. We were initially talking about the riparian development, and then that has taken a little bit of time to move through. And this just seemed like a really great way of showing that there are a lot of options out there that are low water, fire smart, fire safe, and beautiful and friendly as well.
Pollinator-friendly to helping system.
Yeah, I think it's one of the big, so the rock issue is it might be good for your, no water for your one little spot, but yeah, you lose the ecosystem, you lose so many other traits to what this plant with xeriscaping with plants provides. That was for sure.
So take a look at the plant database and just, move around.
Check the database. It's very good information. They have very good, that is one of the best ones I've seen is the Okanagan Xeriscaping one. And I've referred a lot of people to it. So everyone should take a look at it. They have all the traits of these plants, and the plants in the Okanagan are very similar to what we grow here. Some of those plants will actually grow better here than in the Okanagan because we get a little bit more moisture.
You do. So you can search by drops. So on water requirements. So probably we've got 1, 2, and 3 being the highest water use plants. So all of those high water use plants would be better for you here.
Yeah, without irrigation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What time is your presentation?
2
At 2 in Grand
at the
Forks?
Mountain Museum,
Okay.
up, by, what,
Reservoir Road, and there's a poster right here on the, the table. Yeah.
It's well.
I would love to go. You are a great presenter. I love your humor and I love your passion. It's so much fun.
I am passionate about it.
You are, yes.
I
So
am.
we will go on. So thank you very much. Thank you. Talk, and we hope to hear more about xeriscaping in the future. I'm a big supporter of it, so I'm gonna vote whenever possible.
Good.
All right, so next on our agenda is questions from the public, which I don't believe we have any members of the public at our meeting today. Do we, Debbie? Do we have Debbie on? Debbie, are you a member of the public, or is that Frank's wife?
Check no.
No, we got Debbie.
Is there any questions from the public?
Okay, then RDKB director update, we only have one, which is Grace. I know she sent a few words before, but is there?
You said what I needed to say.
You already said what you needed to say? So then
In that conversation.
So we had 3 items added at the beginning of the meeting on our agenda. Christina, we'll give Christina a moment before because she added one to the agenda related to drought levels. So there was a discussion around, or a suggestion talking about where we have our meetings and how we meet. And so if you could express the concerns around it and suggestions.
That was mine, and for those of you who weren't here when I started that conversation, I think it's really important, number one, this meeting, period. Number 2, constantly there's an issue in moving it around and having Christina trying to bring all of this stuff with her, hook it all up, get people online, and I am suggesting for the most part, we hold these in the Grand Forks Regional Assistance Office, because she knows how to operate all of that equipment in there. We can have people online easier, I believe. And I just constantly see the issues that she needs to go through to move this all over the valley. And I don't think it's helpful. For the most part, if everybody knows exactly where it is all the time, there's not that question, oh my God, where are we having it? What do we need to drink with us? Blah, 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 blah.
I 100% agree with you. I think this has been a constant problem. I think every single meeting we've had, wherever it's been, it's an issue. And I can't imagine the stress level that goes into preparing a meeting and all that's going with it and being bogged down by that technology. I think if we can take that out of the equation, we really should.
Has there been much difference in attendance moving it around, or is it kind of the same people moving around?
Usually we'll pick up some of the public from different areas. It's sort of helping highlight. It also brings people from these areas into other spots. I tended to usually tag it into who was presenting. So by bringing in a presenter, so if we had, that's sort of how I was trying to figure out where the location was. I didn't do a great job at advertising this one. I didn't go out of my way to advertise it. I was probably more advertising the Okanagan Xeriscape afterwards. And so that was where I did throw the community calendar, certainly ran it through a variety of the Facebook sites. So yeah, I don't know. I think like the next one is in Beaverdale. And then we're doing a tour, we're doing a field tour of the Beaverdale mines. So that's what the next one is at. So that's sort of where I get a bit caught is the whole goal, this one was going to be the right period, because keep in mind, this came up in February, March. And so in March, we had better ideas of where things were going to be at. We had dreaming ideas of where things were going to be at. And so that's not where they were at this point.
I think that sometimes it's who is speaking that brings the people, not necessarily where you are. And if that's advertised, no matter where that meeting is, they'll either go online or they'll show up. But,
yeah, I hear ya. It's
personally, I like it moving around, but you can ask for help. And I'm trying to remember about where we have had meetings, like at Westbridge, for instance, at Greenwood, you know, even at the RDKB, there's been issues. I mean, I guess they upgraded it, maybe, I don't know.
At least there's an IT person.
Yeah, well, that day that, yeah, anyway.
I like Big White, you got to ride the chairlift.
Well, yeah, that was very interesting, actually. That was super interesting to be up there for Big White,
I think
actually.
real value in the field tours, because then there's a lot of communication amongst people on those trips too. So maybe there's a balance where we don't try to have every meeting somewhere else, you know? But
Like
I think the field trips, like the Beaverdale one, will be very useful, and that we only get to see the mine because the meeting's being held in Beaverdale, right? Otherwise you couldn't do both because of the travel.
Are they talking about the remediation too? Yeah, and that affects all of the river.
Yeah, so, yeah, they're gonna give us, they're gonna have a presentation.
Nobody in Grand Forks knows about it. I mean, very few.
So in the end, what it is we're worried about Christina's time and ability to efficiently run a meeting, right? That's the concern, where we're putting a lot on her trying to work through technology stuff. So maybe we leave it up to Christina's judgment. If she thinks she can make the technology work, we don't put the pressure on her, but if she decides this is an opportunity, she does it. Organizes like for a field trip, like is that fair expectation of her? Or, because I think the previous expectation was in a different place every time, so we're trying to get the public out, which we're really not getting the public out.
No, we don't.
Yeah, I think that's fair. If there's a field trip, we go to the field trip location. If there isn't,
We have a back to Grand Forks, and Christina doesn't have to wear herself out trying to.
Well, and I don't think your time is best spent 20 minutes to try and hook up something that probably isn't gonna work the way you want it to work at the end of the day, right? That's my concern.
If the group is okay, why don't we just allow her and Donna to work out the logistics of her time schedule based on it? Is that fair to do?
Yeah.
And then just knowing where people are at on this morning, or no, or do we need to be directive?
No, and I think, and I appreciate it. Thank you for raising it. There'll be a couple of things that could make it go a lot smoother. That is a 9-pin prong projector that no computer hooks into anymore. So it's going through a dock, which is going through a C drive, which the C drive only connects to the owl. The owl is Christina Lake Fire Department's owl. I don't have my own owl, so I had to stop by there first to pick it up. And so there's a variety of different things. So I've been asking. So that's more of an internal scene. There are different ways that I could probably be more
Easier for you.
fine-tuned. So it is great that it's been raised. I apologize for that, because I don't like to be able to just show that, like this mess of cables driving me. So I apologize on that one. But yeah, it's an interesting one, and I think what we can easily do, like, I feel like we've always had Grand Forks as one dime in the three. I see the value. I find sometimes Grand Forks, and I get this from the Facebook page as well. Everything's Grand Forks. Grand Forks is the people. Everything's Grand Forks. And so I do also like being able to share around the money to be able to rent the different halls or be able to highlight some of the things. But I agree with you. Your point.
To be clear, I'm not against moving it around. I love that.
I agree with you.
But if you've got to fight with the technology, then your time isn't best spent there.
And I have to buy her better technology.
Exactly. But if you think she's going to get that out of RDKB, I'm here to tell you that it's not working. Half their computers don't work right. It drives me nuts.
So we'll move on with our discussion. I think Karina's, yes, we're concerned about your time frame. But there's balance, but you can make some judgments on it.
Okay, thank you.
Next one on there with changing drought levels. Do you want to tackle that right now, and then we'll do beavers?
Okay.
Well, I got beavers first. Yeah, let me just I'll send a note out to everybody on the drought levels, and there's a big, huge changeover of drought levels. So yeah, I think I'm happy to switch it over, because I can put mine into a document and send it over.
Or you can just give us your quick couple slides after Frank goes. Okay, all right, beavers. So there's been discussion about beavers before. I believe in the last meeting, and maybe there was maybe it was a previous one, there was discussion about whether foresters could help make more beaver food, so we can encourage more beavers. So what is the beaver you want to bring up?
There is a lot, but I want to start with, there was a couple, three people working for government mostly were saying how the money's so tight, right? And it's not going to get better. So here's a way we could store water for cheap. Really, the thing is to get a infrastructure in place to breed beavers or / live trap them, and it's very I don't know how to do it, but there's people that do that, and they were doing this 50 years ago. That book, Three Against the Wilderness, by Eric Collier, is a man. He's from England, and he married a native girl, and they moved way back in the bush, and there's no water. Right? There's a creek, but it's dry 9 months out of the year, and so the interesting thing there was that there was all these old beaver dams that had been breached. So to get water, he had to build up the dams himself. And he was smart enough. He put sticks in there so they wouldn't wash out. He was meticulous. And after a few years, he was getting muskrats that never died off. But beavers and grass, everything had died off. So it was kind of a wasteland. The game department heard about it, and the guy came up, working for the wildlife department. He said, "Eric, do you want some help?" I said, "Yeah, I could use help." Well, he came back 2 months later, and he had 2 pairs of beavers. And you know where they got those from? Was Bowron Lakes. Was already a park, and they hadn't trapped them out of there. So this is the kind of thing we need, because the ranchers downstream from there, and this was along the Fraser River, there's a Meldrum Creek in the Chilcotin. All of a sudden they had way more water because it's slow release with beavers. They never plug every hole, and I think they want some water going over. So the ranchers were real happy, and they promised not to blow out these dams this time to get a quick rush of water, and it was good for everyone. And he had hundreds of beavers within 5 or 10 years. They had hundreds of beavers around, and they started making more dams downstream. And so this water table spreads out in the forest, especially where it's level land, and you get large riparian areas. They had a forest fire come in one year, and it stopped on that system. On the west side of that system, it stopped that big forest fire because it's so wide. And forest fires, since we started managing after the natives lost their control, we all know about that large fuel bill. Well, they're devastating now, these forests. They destroy the soil. So it's another good reason to have these extensive riparian areas in all of these creeks. And we talk about the Kettle River, but the Kettle River doesn't exist without these smaller creeks. Same with the Granby. So we range our cows up Pass Creek, and there's this tributary called Rock Candy and Glover. Well, up Glover, there's 5 lakes, and there's a good food supply of aspen and cloudberry, the main food sources for the beaver. But there's no beavers. So Glover dries up, and so does Meta. I mean, if you had those beavers in there, it would be slow release. Those creeks would never dry up.
So beavers are ecosystem engineers. I think we've heard that a few times, and I'm more than happy. There's actually been conferences just on this topic of beavers and beaver restoration. They've done a ton of work down through Washington, Oregon, all the way down through Arizona on how to do this. And we're in a position where we actually still have beaver in our system. Like, they were never trapped out. What our challenge currently that's believed, and I'm just giving this the quick summary here, is that there's not enough food supply out there we need to look at our harvesting practices to actually encourage the growth of that aspen or those other deciduous in certain places to get those beaver populations to come back up, because we certainly have them in a lot of places. I mean, there's been many projects where they're dropping beavers on a plane, and they build dams, they build beaver deceivers, they've been doing a lot of things to totally heal the land, which it totally will. And I think it's something we need to be working on as a potential, because as he said, they can store a lot of water that'll slowly come up.
I'll give you
And I
an
think it's
example.
very site specific as to what will work.
Barb, I want to give you an example, a concrete example, like our farm, our home ranch.
Agreeing with you, Frank, and we have like 3 minutes.
What
Okay,
about
this'll be
what about
quick.
the grant funding that's available though? Like this stream that's opening up, and it would be agricultural use. Could you tie into that?
And I think we need to talk to the foresters, because there be a change to the harvest practices.
Presentation on this. A lot of the elected officials have heard the whole thing. They're mimicking. They're mimicking what beavers do now.
Our aquifer on our farm is up 2 or 3 feet this year, because the beavers moved in on a water channel on the Grand Beaver River there. And they put about 5 dams in a row there. The cows can't even escape anymore. They don't have to put a fence in there.
Right on.
It's just win-win there.
It is a win-win.
It totally is. And how do we switch that trend here to get more? We also have terrain issues too, where we have some really steep slopes. But there is,
And there's also the human component, a beaver break, and then you have a huge flooding. I have worked with for the province beforehand. The number of calls you get for my basement's flooded. Somebody needs to get out there and trap that beaver again.
Wait till concrete dam breaks.
Every year, beavers, they trap it, they move it, and a new beaver was coming in. So.
But there's solutions for that.
So what I can do, not this location, I will find some of the links to some of the current research and the works people have been doing, because I think people are more familiar with all all of that, because it's not really something this group can solve, but could provide some direction on that, because there's definitely some work that could happen. But I'll pass them out, because there are many, many success stories about returning that flooding pattern to an area, and there's problems where they broke. So I will promise to do some links to Christina to some conference proceedings that talks about just this issue, so that everyone's kind of familiar with all the issues, and we can see if there's anything we can do to help speed up the process here.
And as a reminder, the Boundary Integrated Watershed Service has a $10,000 grant every year that is issued to community groups. If somebody wants to look into this and say, okay, well, how do we get a case study? I know it's probably going to be something that's going to be tied into the water supply study that is going to be done through the working group, the agricultural working group, because it could is potential easy win.
It has a role in supporting flows for fish as well. So DFO, there's funding opportunities possibly through DFO.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. All right, so we will then, last thing, I guess you will send the drug thing around after. All right, and then that leads us to our next meeting, October 7th. And it is located in Beaverdale. Okay, so October 7th, and it'll be a great field trip, I'm sure.
It is a field trip for advisory council members. So it is not the public, and we're going to see how many people. So we are going to really need to have an RSVP on that. Because then if we do have extra room, then I might be able to see if there's any local people that are going to be wanting to. I'll sort of figure it out. But at the moment, it's advisory council. The field trip part is advisory council only. But the presentation is going to be open to everybody as they all are.
And you'll send the meeting calendar out like right now, or is it on here?
You should have had the meeting calendar. It should have been sent at the beginning of the year. But I will update the location. And so that was a big... Wait, that was one of our conversations. It's
it's on here.
Okay. All right. So in closing, thank you everyone for coming, having these discussions. As always, there's so many things we need to be doing, and we only have so much time, but we will do what we can. Thank you, Christina, for all the time you put into organizing these, and very much appreciated.
Yeah, and you know, sort of shout out to the presentation that's happening this afternoon. It was sort of what we're doing instead of a field trip. Yeah, it's gonna be an hour and a half workshop on just what are the different options, and we will have fire smart. Cool. And that's sort of 2 p.m., right? 2 p.m. at the Boundary Archives Museum. All right, thank you. 12 o'clock, 12:01.